Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Linda's Sue Plants for You. This is going to be a video today about my husband's zebra plant. And unfortunately, because we had to, somebody in my family, and I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to call them out on it, but somebody unplugged my my charger for my camera by accident, and I was going to film yesterday and I couldn't, or record yesterday. And I apologize if I keep using the word film. You'll just have to forgive me for that because I'm old and that's what it used to be called, so that's what comes out of my mouth. But anyways, you all know what I mean. And I went to turn the camera on. It was black. I couldn't figure out what was wrong, and the battery was totally dead. I had it plugged in to the charger, but the charger was not plugged into the wall. So I did recharge it, but I only got about 40 minutes on it, so this video definitely has to be shorter than that. And those of you that know me know that I have a hard time staying in that time frame, so hopefully I won't get cut off before I'm done. I'm going to plug it back in when I'm done with this, and hopefully I'll have the time and energy to do another video yet later today. I have so much to do, and I want to share it with my plant friends, so I'm going to try and start doing more and more every day what I can. Alright, so for today we're going to work on this plant. This is my zebra, or should see my hubby's zebra plant, and I did just take some cuttings from this not too long ago, and one of the cuttings made it and one of them didn't, and this is the one that made it. I cut them the same way. I did the same exact thing. I put them in the same vessel with the same water, and one made it and one didn't. So that's just the nature of plants, you know. Some I never know what, I can't tell you why that happens. I just know it's not an infrequent thing. So today what I want to do now, when I had this sitting where it normally is, it was sitting like this, and I was trying to decipher where to make this next cutting. Well, when I moved it over and set it down on the table, this happened, so I know exactly where I'm going to make that cutting. One of the things that I want to show you here is the browning on the tips. This is definitely from water, and it's definitely from underwatering, because I tend to underwater anyway. And on the internet, you know, it talks about the watering and the lighting, and once again, folks, I got to tell you, I don't agree with a lot of what I read as far as for my particular plant. Now that may work for someone else, but the information they're giving is not working for me. And one of the things they talk about is keeping high humidity. I don't keep high humidity. I keep it between 40 and 60. And although today, in the last couple of days, it's been in the 70s because it's too cool out to run the air conditioning and not cold enough to turn on the heat. So we have to just bear with what we get. But the other thing that they talk about is the lighting. This plant is under an equivalent to 100-watt bulb. I believe it's 3,000 Ks, and it's about 2 feet above the plant. And when I put it there is when I really started getting some good growth. So in my opinion, this plant needs very bright light, but not direct sun. And when they say bright indirect light, I think that's what probably most people are referring to, because direct light from an LED, I have never ever heard of that harming a plant. So that being said, the other thing that I do with this plant is I do let it dry out. it does not like to dry out completely for like 2-3 days. So when I say letting a plant dry out, that's usually what I mean. You know, you let it get on the dry side, and then you wait a couple days more so that it's completely dry. So if my plant needs that kind of care, that's how I handle it. This little diva is a little different. This is a plastic pot, and it's very heavy, so that tells me there's still a lot of moisture down there. And although the top feels dry, it's still very, very damp. So this plant is not, and on top of that, we have had, I'm going to say at least 4, maybe 5 days now with absolutely no sun. It has been so dreary here that I'm afraid to water anything, because that's when we get into trouble. And for those of you that are new plant moms and dads, if you don't already know this, be very mindful of that, and be careful when the weather is, you know, if the weather forecast is saying the sun's not gonna shine for the next 2 days, if you can hold off on your watering, do. Because when the sun's not shining, the plant is not doing its thing, as I say, and it's not using up that moisture. So what ends up happening is they get root rot, and you may not even know it until months later. So just a word of caution, you know, when it's really dreary out like it is here today, I'm not watering anything today. I did have to water some plants yesterday because I had to. But as you can see, I've got one here. This is one of my recent purchases, my purple waffle. I purchased this because it was really inexpensive at Lowe's, and I want to add it to the big purple waffle that I already have, because I lost some cuttings in there when I was making new cuttings and trying to fill that pot in really nicely. So I picked this one up, but as you can see, it needs water. It's droopy, and it's very light. If I put any in here at all, it'll be maybe a tablespoon, just to keep the leaves from getting damaged. But I think I'm not even going to do that. I'm probably just going to let it be until we're supposed to get sunshine either later today, like this evening, or tomorrow. If that happens, then I will water it later. Okay. So, the zebra plant. Temperature, they say from 60 to 80 degrees, and I can agree with that. I don't think it's very fussy on the temperature. I have noticed with this plant, though, that it does not like to be in drafty situations. I had it on a stand where we walked by it, you know, quite a number of times in a day, and it didn't like it there. And I'm thinking it had to be just a little bit of draft that kept going all day long. So I would keep it away from drafts. Keep it in a very well lit light, and don't overwater. Better to underwater. You can always cut the brown tips off, which I'm going to do right now, and I'm going to show you how I do that. And if you see things flying around, these are another round of fruit flies that I think came in from out of my garden. So I'm going to have to ask my husband to wash those off before he brings them in, and hopefully that'll do the trick. That was one of Susie's ideas from Suzette's garden. She said that her mama does that all the time, and she's never had a problem. So I think I'm going to have to take her up on that advice, because tons of fruit flies. And the way you can tell the difference is fruit flies will come at you. They will go towards your food, your soda, your anything. Your mouth, your eyes, your nose, anywhere where there's liquid. Whereas fungus gnats don't do that. You can't even, it's hard to even get close enough to them to swat them. Whereas with fruit flies, they'll fly around you until you smash them with your hand or your fly swatter or whatever you use. But so they're a little bit bigger. But those are two separately different things. And I know as soon as I get rid of the source that they're going to, and I find out where that is, I will be getting rid of those. So if you see one of those flying around, it's not fungus gnats. Okay, and fruit flies don't hurt my plants either, so I'm not too concerned. But I'm going to just show you here how I cut when I have a dead spot on my plant that has pointed leaves. I want to cut it in the way that it's growing. I don't cut it this way because I don't like how that looks straight across. And by the way, I did sterilize my snippers with alcohol. Sprayed it on there real good, let it sit for a minute, and then wiped it off with a paper towel. Always a good habit to get into when you're cutting into your plants, and especially into the leaves. Because I had heard a while ago, a long time ago, I had heard that when you cut into a leaf, you take a chance on bacteria getting through that leaf. Now, is that true or not? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But it made sense to me, so I'm very careful now when I start cutting into my plant. So I'm going to take and start at the center, and I'm going to just try and, well, and that wasn't the best cut, but, and I'm going to cut this too just so it matches. Okay. So you see, now I did end up cutting a little of the edging off, but no one's going to see that when they're walking by your plant. And you won't see it either. You won't even recognize it after a while. You won't even notice it. I got another one, 2 more down in the pot here. And I'm going to do the same thing. And you're not going to be able to see this, but just bear with me while I quickly snip this off. Okay. And like I said, I started doing this years ago when I had a and by the way, just a reminder, this shaking of mine is nerve damage from I have some health issues in it, so it's frustrating, but it is what it is. I don't know what to say, but I do like to mention it now and then, so you don't think I'm just I really demolished that leaf, so I'm not even gonna show you that. Well, if you see it, you see it, but I'm not gonna do a close-up of it. Okay, as I started to say, this one was from a cutting. And I did root these in water, and I'm going to root this one in water too, so I can see what's going on. Usually when you're rooting plants, it depends. For me, it depends on the plant. If it's a plant that needs to dry out in between waterings, then I absolutely do not root my stuff, because when you're rooting a cutting, you want to keep that wet at all times. So if you put it in dirt and it's not like a succulent or something that's holding water, and you let that plant dry out, if there are any roots forming, chances are they're going to dry out. And I've had that happen to me a couple of times. Excuse me a minute. I'm sorry, I don't normally drink on camera, but I got a real scratchy throat today. Probably from the humidity. Okay, and then I've got this little guy. He just appeared, I don't know where from. And I'm going to stick this in the soil because he's too little to put in a glass. He's going to just drown. So I'm going to put him in the soil and see what happens. But this one, I'm going to snip this right here. And as you can see, this is where the old cutting came from. That same spot. I cut it off up here. Now that looks pretty sad right now, and I know it does. I'm going to cut this leaf off because it's demolished. I don't like it. I want it gone. Okay. The other reason I cut off my dead spots is I want to know if whatever's causing the problem is continuing. So if I'm suspecting that it's a watering or lighting issue or a placement of where the plant is, how will I know if when I move it or change the watering or the lighting, if that's working? How am I going to know? Because I've got a lot of plants. I don't remember which one had brown tips and which one didn't. So I try to keep my plants as clean as I can. That way I can, when I go back and look at this, I can say, oh, and this has nothing to do with taking cuttings now. I don't want to confuse it. I'm just talking in general. If you end up with brown tips, I'll cut them off. And if I don't see any more browning over the next, 3 weeks to a month, then I know I solved the problem. If I continue to see browning, then I know I've got another issue and I got to figure out what it is. So that is really the reason for me doing that, okay? Isn't she a beauty? Okay, I can't wait to get this whole pot full of her. And it's been a challenge. I'm going to cut off a few more of these bottom leaves, keeping in mind that the more leaves you leave on a cutting, the harder it is to get roots. Now that being said, it's good to leave some on. You want to leave some leaves on, but not all these, because then the plant is so busy keeping all those leaves alive, the energy's not going into growing new roots. So that's why I'm cutting these off, okay? And I don't think you can make new plants from these. I don't know. Maybe you can. Wouldn't that be something? Maybe I should try it. Maybe I will. Maybe I will put those in a little pot and see what happens. But I don't think I don't think it'll work, but we could try it. Alright, so I think this is probably good now. I'm going to make a hole and stick her in here. Now, I know I think I misspoke before. I think I said I was going to put her in a glass, but I'm not going to do that with this plant because I don't ever let this completely dry out. So I think she'll be okay here. I hope I didn't confuse anybody. Now, I'm trying not to go down too far because I don't want these bottom leaves to touch the soil. I've done that in the past, and those, when the leaves sit on the soil for too long, they rot, and then you're attracting all kinds of problems. So, all right, I think she's good there, and I purposely left this part so that the light could get at it where I cut her from, because I know that she's going to get new growth here just like she did before. So let's hope for the best, keep our fingers crossed, and hope that this is not, does not die, because it isn't, it's a good part of the plant, and if it dies, there won't be much left to work with, and I'll be really sad, and so will my husband, because this is actually his plant. But he doesn't do anything with plants. He kind of was attracted to it when we were at the plant store, and I've seen another one that needs to come off. And I was having some fungus issues a while ago, so I think I got that under control, but I'm still a little bit nervous when I see anything that even resembles fungus, because I don't want that to get on my other plants. And depending on the type of fungus, some of them are very, very contagious. Not all of them are, but some of them are. And we don't want that. Okay. Alright, what do you guys think? I mean, there's not much to say about it. It's in a plastic pot, which I'm not too crazy about. I really don't like plastic pots at all, but I'm finding more and more that they are the more practical solution for me, because I tend to water on the light side, and the things that I have in terracotta dry out a lot faster than the plastic. I wouldn't mind having ceramic if I could just find some that I liked. I don't like to have patterns on my pots. Now that's not to say once in a while here and there a special pot that has a beautiful pattern that I love. In fact, I think I might have one in this room that's like a beige on white, and it looked kind of like old stoneware, and I fell in love with that one. But for the most part, I think it takes away from the plant for me. I want to see the plant. I don't want to see the pot. And when I have my plants grouped together, then I can see all the greenery. And when I used to put them in decorative pots, my eye would go towards that pot first. So that's why I kind of got away from that. Alright, and one last thing I want to mention here before my camera shuts off on me is my husband found this at the scrapyard. He dug it out, he cleaned it up, and he sprayed it with like a finish coating, not colored, just a wet to keep it, preserve it so it doesn't rust again. Pretty cool. Not sure what it is. If somebody knows what this is, please feel free to make some suggestions. It's very, very heavy. And even though it looks like pewter, it's not. So I'm not sure what it is or what it was used for. But he brought that home for me. So we're just going to set her on here for now. Till I put her back where she's going to reside for a while. And I don't know, what do you think? Should I try and pot these up? Maybe. The healthy ones. I think I will. I'm gonna try and put these in a small, maybe I'll use perlite or vermiculite, something that doesn't have the soil. I'll see. We'll see. If I decide to do it, I'll let you guys know, okay? Alright, I think that's it for this one. Like I said, I've got so much more to share with you guys, and some updates on some of my older plants. So I hope you'll come back, and I hope you're all having a great weekend so far. This is Saturday afternoon, and hopefully I'll be back with you later, okay? Alright. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.